as far as your inspiration for Sooley, I remember a University of Maryland basketball player that had some difficult times, so to speak. I'd say, particularly, and of course it's obvious we do have players from Africa and things. Bowl is knocking down, cereal boxes on commercials still. Manu Bowl is, but do you want to talk a little bit about as much as you care to?
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
It's not surprising.
Easy to talk about. There were several inspirations for Sooley. The first being just a love for sports and college athletics. We go to a lot of college basketball games here at UVA. We live in Charlottesville. And Renee, as you know, is a big Tar Heel. So we go to a bunch of games in Chapel Hill. And a big part of our winter and early spring is back and forth to basketball games. Who's at home this weekend? Where are we going? Renee, my daughter Shay is in Raleigh now with 2 grandkids, so we're down there a lot anyway. And somehow it always coincides with the basketball game. So, I just really like sports. I like to write about sports. I like to read good short sports novels. That's what the first 3 were: Bleachers and Playing for Pizza and Calico Joe. I always wanted to write a basketball novel about college basketball. About 2 or 3 years ago, I read a magazine article. I think it was online. Excuse me.
Get that if you need to.
That's not important. It was a story about this team from South Sudan playing in a summer showcase tournament in the U.S. and how they had just captured the attention of the audience and the scouts and the spectators by the way they played. Extremely energetic, enthusiastic, big smiles, slamming dunks and blocking shots, and they became just the sensation of the tournament. They slaughtered everybody in the tournament, and they were very humble, and they were never cocky, but sure of themselves. And that was an inspiration. Another inspiration was here at UVA 4 or 5 years ago. A kid showed up from Ghana. Monty Diakite, and he didn't play much his first 2 years. Big, tall, lanky kid who kept growing. But by his senior year, last year, he was starting and blocking shots, and 6'9", jumped through the roof, just became he was drafted in the second round by an NBA team and made a roster. I think he's playing now in the NBA. But we just loved that kid. He had big smiles and great enthusiasm and never quit, So so all those things kind of converged into one story. So there were, and also you mentioned Len Bias. This is ACC country, and the people here like to talk about the great players. It's, serious basketball country. And back in the early 1980s, when Michael Jordan was rampaging through the ACC, he had a rival. Len Bias at the University of Maryland was his equal. And some of the old timers say he was even better. But they really were 2 great players headed for greatness and whatever in the NBA. And Len Bias was drafted in the first round by the Boston Celtics in 83 or 84. And 2 days after he was drafted, he died of an overdose, and he was not a drug user. He was a nice young man who got in with the wrong crowd one night and took something he wasn't sure of, and he died. And it was a huge tragedy because that's why I like sad sports stories. It was, I'm not giving away the ending of Sooley. I'm not going to do that, but it was a huge, it's like Calico Joe, the loss of potential, the loss of what could, forever, people will say, God, what could have been if not for tragedy. And so all those elements converged into this big pot where I kept stirring it and trying to come up with a story. And so finally I did.